What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another video. Are you putting in the work in the gym but not seeing the muscle growth that you are expecting? Well, today I'm going to break down the smartest way to measure your training volume for maximum muscle growth. Let's get into it. In our last training video that we did, we covered stimulating reps. And this is a carryover from that. Stimulating reps are the reps that really matter. Those are the ones that create the mechanical loading that we want to stimulate muscle growth, to drive muscle growth. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I'd recommend you go back and watch that and then come back to this one because it all links in together. Today's upper body as well, we're going to start off with a 30-degree incline dumbbell press. I've already done one warm-up set, another warm-up set to come, and then we'll go straight into our working set. Working set, we've got 5 on this last time. Let's try see what we'll get out of this. Oh, shit. Oh. So should you always train to failure? In my opinion, not necessarily. The closer we get to failure, the more effective reps we get in. However, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had around different type of people. So, for example, myself, I've been training for well over 20 years. Personally, I sometimes take things to failure, but I always, most of the time, not always, most of the time I try and leave 1 rep in reserve. And what I mean by that is 1 rep shy of failure. Purely because that 1 extra rep taking you to failure can actually cause quite a bit of fatigue, which will then trickle over to the rest of the session and may even trickle over to the following sessions coming up, which I don't really want. I have found over the years, if I leave 1 rep in reserve, I tend to actually progress a lot more than if I go to failure on everything. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't take things to failure. I think a lot of people need to understand what their actual failure is before they even think about leaving reps in reserve to manage fatigue, to manage muscle damage, for example. You need to understand yourself first. What does it mean for you to go to failure? Understand that first. So if you don't quite know yet what failure means, and when I'm saying failure, I mean task failure. You can no longer perform the movement that you're doing with perfect form. That's task failure. You don't want to be going to failure, but whilst you're going to failure, you actually change the move totally because you're trying to cheat your way up there. That's not failure. That's you trying to overcompensate with other muscles to be able to get the weight from A to B. That's not really the failure I'm talking about. Task failure should be only when you can't complete another rep with a perfect form. From rep 1 to rep, however, 6, 7, the form should be exactly the same. I think newbies, people who have never really trained to failure, they should do that first. So they know then how to understand, okay, I've got 1 rep left, 2 reps left, 2 reps left. So those are the ones in reserve that you want to keep in mind as you get more and more advanced. I think it's important as you get more advanced, as you understand what failure means to you, to then maybe keep 1 rep in reserve so that we can actually carry on progressing and we're not creating a huge amount of fatigue that then carries over to the rest of the session. So moving on to our second exercise, a flat cable press. We've done 2 on an incline, we'll do 1 working set only on the flat. I've already done 1 warm-up, I'm gonna go straight in main working set. Let's talk about advanced techniques in terms of training. Over the years, and you still see this a lot, we have a lot of different advanced techniques. What I mean by that is straight sets are the main thing, right? You do a set of 5, a set of 8, straight set, okay? As you've seen already, the first set, I got 5 reps on 35. That was a straight set. I'm gonna do a straight set here. I always now pretty much always do straight sets. I have over the years done every different type of technique you can think about. I've done drop sets, I've done cluster sets, supersets, giant sets, and knowing what I know now, having understood and learned the science behind muscle building, I was wasting a lot of time, effort, and I left a lot of muscle growth on the table. And what do I mean by that? Let's do the set. I'll tell you all about it. So that was 5 again. I could have got another one, and that goes back to what I said earlier, reps in reserve. I would have had another one to failure, but then I would have created more fatigue than I'd want. And so understanding that, I'm gonna stay at 5 reps. Now going back to the advanced techniques, let's talk about this. Straight sets, that was the straight set. I did a set, I finished it. Now I could have then do a drop set if I wanted to. That would mean I would drop from 65 to maybe 55 and go straight in and get as many as I can. And maybe even add another drop set where I could go to 45 and do as many as I can. And I know a lot of people are doing that, and I have done that in the past. But if you go back to the fatigue video that I did, the muscle damage video that I did, you'll now understand that actually that's going to create a lot of CNS fatigue, but also it's probably going to create muscle damage that's going to carry over to not just today, but following session as well, which I don't want. Because if I want to really stimulate those high threshold motor units, I want to mitigate the amount of fatigue that I'm creating in this workout. And drop sets will create a huge amount of fatigue. I have probably got 3 to 4 stimulating reps on that. I don't need any more. I don't need to add another 2 or 3 just purely to add another 15 reps to create more fatigue. That's then going to be counterproductive in the long run. And that goes for every other advanced technique. Giant sets, super sets, cluster sets, they all create the same environment. And so for me, if muscle growth is the goal, straight sets is the only thing that I do, and I recommend any of you watching this do too. Lion cuff side lateral, one of my favorite movements here, purely because of the stability of it. Let's see how many reps you get out of this. Five reps on that. Oh, so I could have got another one. There's no doubt about it. Remember the reps in reserve I talked to you about? I'm leaving one in reserve purely because of that fatigue mechanism that I talked about already. But going back to the last video I did on stimulating reps and the rep ranges that we should be working in. My favorite rep range to work in is anything between 3 reps and 8 reps, purely because I want to minimize fatigue whilst trying to get as many quality stimulating reps as possible. And so we already know from the last video, 1 to 5 is going to create a lot more strength gains. And between, say, rep 3 and 5, that's still within the muscle growth realm. Then you've got moderate reps, which is probably my favorite, between 5 and 8. So that's where I really want to be at. 3 to 8 is my aim, moderate. It means I'm going to get 4 to 5 stimulating reps, but not much fatigue. Then I can obviously go into the 15, 20, 25 reps. But it's going to take me such a long time to get to those stimulating reps that by accumulating more reps, I'm adding more fatigue. I don't want that to be the case. So when we're looking at volume, we have to look at this. It's really, really important that we look at things like straight sets, not adding too much fatigue, not adding too much volume, because that's going to impact your actual session that you're training in now, but also the sessions that are going to come up. So you've got to bear that in mind. So when you're setting up your training plan, make sure that you set a plan that, number one, you can recover from. So how much work you do in terms of volume, can you recover from that? Or are you going to be sore for 3 or 4 days? By the time you come in next time, are you progressing? Are you getting progressive overload? If not, you have to ask yourself the question, why not? Is it that you're doing too much volume, too many reps? All of that is important. But for me, honestly, working between the 3 to 8 is the perfect place to be to get as many stimulating reps as possible. Right, moving on now to maintenance work. We've got 1 set on the lat pull down, 1 set on biceps, 1 set on triceps. We are done for the session. Right, hey, okay. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hey. Finishing now with hammer curls, 1 working set, and then we're done for the session. So at the end of the day, optimizing your training isn't about doing more. It's about being smarter with your volume. So many times I see people, well, I do 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps every exercise, and they're not progressing. Purely because, number 1, they're not training hard enough. They're not taking it to failure or near failure, as we've already said. They're not getting the stimulating reps that they need. But also they're creating a lot of damage, a lot of CNS fatigue because of the amount of work that they're doing. And we have this misconception of, oh, if it's not working, let's add more. Let's add more. We're not running here. We're not trying to get better at running long distances. We're trying to build muscle. And it's total opposite. We actually need to minimize the amount of work that we're doing and actually be very effective at the work that we are doing. And that's what's really going to create the change that we are after. So, last set here. Guys, also, honestly, thanks for watching. Hopefully these videos are valuable to you, adding to you, to your training. If you like the videos, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you want me to cover more things? Let me know, and let's get smarter and stronger together. Let's go. Wish. See you on the next video.